Let's get more on our top story now. Colorado's mass killer has faced court in Denver. Our North America correspondent Jane Cowan was there, and she filed this report a short time ago.
Well, it was a very short court appearance here and a strange one. It lasted just 11 minutes. You saw the red hair that's been talked about, but what was most unsettling was how out of it James Holmes looked. The 24-year-old sat with his head lolling from side to side, his eyes almost rolling back in his head at times. He didn't look as though he was following proceedings. He was kind of staring into the middle distance. At times he looked as though he was almost falling asleep. And all of this was so odd and so pronounced that reporters asked the district attorney about it outside afterwards. She said prosecutors wouldn't necessarily know if the suspect had been medicated or sedated somehow in prison. She was also asked whether she's anticipating an insanity defence, and she says at this stage she's not really anticipating anything other than getting a fair trial and a proper outcome here for the victims. As for the prospects of a death penalty, she says a decision on whether or not they're going to pursue that won't be made for some weeks, possibly months yet.
There's so much that victims have to take into account, and victims will be impacted by that decision in an enormous way for years. If the death penalty is sought, that's a very long process that impacts their lives for years. And so they will want to have, and we will want to get their input before we make any kind of a decision on that. The death penalty decision has to be made within 60 days of the arraignment. Okay. So it is months down the line still. But we will, over the course of those months, be talking with all of the victims, developing relationships just so that they know who we are and who they can talk to, and that will take some time in this case.
James Holmes will be back in court at this time next week. Until then, he'll be held just a few metres from the courthouse in prison, where he's being kept in isolation for his own protection and where he's said to have been spitting at guards. As for when the community of Aurora can hope to see an end to all this and get some closure, there really is no timeline on proceedings, especially if questions of mental fitness to face trial come into it.